स्टॉक पिकिंग में बिलीव करते हैं, डायरेक्ट स्टॉक्स करते हैं, तो उनके लिए स्टॉक पिकिंग का सीक्रेट फॉर्मूला आज से रिवील करेंगे कि कंपनी को पहली नज़र में कैसे जज करते हैं और कौन सी चीज़ उनकी नज़र में कभी नहीं छूटती। आज के मार्केट्स में क्या करना चाहिए, तो सुनील सर का क्लियर नो नॉनसेंस व्यू आज हम सुनेंगे इस पॉडकास्ट के अंदर में।
I love equity markets. See, nothing is frankly by design. I think what is in your hand is to obviously work passionately, follow what you believe is your strength and will work for you.
I was doing my calculation, sir, और 2003 से 2017 की जर्नी थी, the CAGR was around 29%. But the beauty of that is that you were beating the category by almost 4%.
I believe that presentations are made, balance sheets are derived. बहुत मिस्टेक किए लाइफ में, बट मेरा एक ही मानना रहता है that mistakes repeat नहीं होनी चाहिए। हमारा एक सिंपल फिलॉसफी है, the best company is not necessarily the best stock. Momentum very difficult to resist, but that is something again we have just dissuaded. So in a very momentous kind of market होता है कभी कभी फील करे स्टॉक बढ़ गया, बट देन एक सोलेस भी होता है बिकॉज वी हैव सीन मोर ऑफन देन नॉट व्हेन स्टॉक्स मूव अप फार बियॉन्ड देयर फंडामेंटल्स और ओनली ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ मोमेंटम वो फिर से नीचे आ जाता है। रिटर्न एट द पोर्टफोलियो लेवल इज अ फंक्शन ऑफ गुड स्टॉक्स एंड मिनिमाइजिंग मिस्टेक्स। सो आई थिंक दैट सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ मिनिमाइजिंग मिस्टेक्स बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज पोर्टफोलियो रिटर्न में अगर आपके पास बहुत अच्छे स्टॉक्स हैं लेकिन ऐसे स्टॉक्स भी जो आधे हो गए तो आपका पोर्टफोलियो रिटर्न में इम्पैक्ट भी है। एंड आई थिंक दिस कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बोथ ऑफ दिस इज वेरी वेरी नेसेसरी। हमारा एक सिंपल फिलॉसफी है, लेके रोने से अच्छा नहीं लेके रो। बट अगर कोई बोले ना मुझे पता था कि 50 गुना होने वाला ऑन द डे ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग, बेस्ट कॉम्बिनेशन क्या है? मार्केट, द सेक्टर हैज पोटेंशियल, कंपनी इज वेल गियर्ड, बट देयर इज डिफरेंट। क्योंकि हाउ विल यू मेक अ मल्टीपल? सी, मार्केट प्राइस इज इक्वल टू EPS into EPS is earnings, P is perception. Where both grow, that is how your market cap can money. As far as gold and silver is concerned, yes, last 1 year has been great. But अगर इतना ही conviction था तो why were we not talking about it last year or 2 years before? Gold is not a growing asset class. अगर आपने आज 100 ग्राम गोल्ड खरीदा है, 10 साल 20 साल बाद आप तिजोरी से निकालोगे तो 100 ग्राम भी निकलेगा। करेक्ट। इक्विटी में अगर आपने कोई कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट किया जिसका टर्नओवर 100 करोड़ है, 10 साल में 200, 300, 400, 500 करोड़, it's a growing asset. So growing assets is what we create value. And now you are talking about compounding of returns in Reliance goes on and influence. I always say that this is also compounding of relationship.
सर, आपसे जितना बात कर रहा हूँ ना, what I am personally admiring more is your simplicity. And कितनी प्यारी बात आपने कही कि more than compounding of wealth, आप compounding of relationships भी कर रहे हो। सर, किसी शायर ने कहा था कि कोई तो बात होगी तुम्हारी सादगी में भी कि लोग तुम्हें देखकर ही मुस्कुराने लगते हैं।
Borrowed knowledge and information will not work most of the time.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, स्वागत है आपका फिनोमैटिक टॉक शो में। आज के इस शो में हमारे साथ मार्केट्स के असली गेम चेंजर बैठे हैं। आप सबने रिलायंस ग्रोथ फंड में शायद निवेश किया होगा या उसकी कहानी सुनी होगी कि हमारे मार्केट्स का हाईएस्ट NAV वाला फंड। लेकिन क्या आपको पता है कि किस बंदे ने उसको 100 गुना कर दिया था? आज मैं आपको ऐसे इंसान से मिलाने जा रहा हूँ जो पहले इंडियन थे, जो CFA इंस्टीट्यूट के ग्लोबल बोर्ड को संभाले थे। एंड फाइनली इस वर्सेटाइल इंसान ने सोचा कि यार खुद की जर्नी शुरू करते हैं, और उन्होंने अबैकस बोल के कंपनी की शुरुआत की। सिर्फ नंबर से नहीं, डिसिप्लिन से पैसा बनाया, सिर्फ रिटर्न से नहीं, रेपुटेशन से नाम कमाया। स्टॉक पिकिंग की उनकी जो ये नज़र है और सिंप्लिसिटी जो उनकी फ़िलॉसफी है, दोनों का कोई जवाब नहीं। दोस्तों, आज मैं स्वागत करता हूँ वन ऑफ इंडियाज़ फाइनेस्ट फंड मैनेजर्स, मिस्टर सुनील सिंघानिया, हु इज़ द फाउंडर ऑफ अबैकस, जिन्होंने अभी रिसेंट में म्यूचुअल फंड लाइसेंस एक्वायर किया और अब अपने म्यूचुअल फंड ऑफरिंग्स लेकर के मार्केट में उतर रही हैं। दोस्तों, आज का पॉडकास्ट एकदम स्पेशल होने वाला है। क्यों? क्योंकि सुनील सिंघानिया सर के साथ बातचीत का मतलब सीधी, सिंपल, लेकिन मार्केट को बदलने वाली बातें। आज हम सिर्फ 5 चीज़ें डीपली समझेंगे। पहला, उनकी इन्वेस्टिंग जर्नी का टर्निंग पॉइंट, जब मार्केट्स उनके लिए हॉबी नहीं मिशन बन गई थी। हम समझेंगे रिलायंस ग्रोथ फंड की इस 100x जर्नी का असली मंत्रा, कौन सी सोच ने उन्हें इंडिया का टॉप फंड मैनेजर बना दिया। बहुत से हमारे दर्शक स्टॉक पिकिंग में बिलीव करते हैं, डायरेक्ट स्टॉक्स करते हैं, तो उनके लिए स्टॉक पिकिंग का सीक्रेट फॉर्मूला आज से रिवील करेंगे कि कंपनी को पहली नज़र में कैसे जज करते हैं और कौन सी चीज़ उनकी नज़र में कभी नहीं छूटती। इसके बारे में बातचीत होगी आज के इस पॉडकास्ट में। एक गुड कंपनी वर्सेस गुड स्टॉक के डिफरेंस को हम समझेंगे कि वो सिंपल सा रूल जो हर इन्वेस्टर फॉलो करे तो शायद आधी गलतियां कम हो जाएं, ये आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे। एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, आज के मार्केट्स में क्या करना चाहिए। एक तरफ एफआईआई माल बेच रहा है, गोल्ड सिल्वर नई हाइज बनाए जा रहे हैं, अर्निंग स्टॉक आ रही है, लेकिन यूएस इंडिया का ट्रेड डील साइन नहीं हो रहा है। तो सुनील सर का क्लियर नो नॉनसेंस व्यू आज हम सुनेंगे इस पॉडकास्ट के अंदर में। पॉडकास्ट के अंत में सुनील सर एक ऐसी बिहेवियरल इंसाइट देने वाले हैं जो शायद हर इन्वेस्टर की ज़िंदगी बदल सकती है। तो ये वो लेसन है जो उन्होंने डिकेड्स के एक्सपीरियंस से सीखा है और आज वो आपके साथ हमारे इस शो पर शेयर करने आए हैं। तो दोस्तों, सीट बेल्ट बांध दीजिए। आज की बातचीत सिंपल भी होगी, डीप भी होगी और मार्केट्स को देखने का शायद आपका नज़रिया बदल सकती है। Alright, so welcome to the show, sir, and thank you for being a part of our show. तो सर, हर इन्वेस्टर की लाइफ में ना सर एक लाइट बल्ब मोमेंट होता है कि व्हेन यू रियलाइज कि यार दिस इज वेयर आई एम राइट। ऑल्दो मेरे लाइफ में अभी तक स्टॉक पिकिंग को लेकर तो आज तक ऐसा नहीं हुआ, बट ऐसा समय आता है सर जब चार्ट से ज्यादा ना मार्केट आपके लिए एक जुनून बन जाता है। तो आपके लिए सर वो क्या टर्निंग पॉइंट था व्हेन यू एक्चुअली फेल्ट दैट दिस इज योर कॉलिंग?
सी, एक्चुअली बहुत डिफिकल्ट है बिकॉज लाइफ में है ना, नॉट एवरीथिंग moves as you plan. So at different stages, you have sort of different things which come into your life. So I'll say that I started as a practicing chartered accountant, became CA very early in my life, but I was very clear I loved equity markets. But मौका नहीं मिलता था because BSE exchange, that was a very close exchange. So I think when NSE set up in 94, maybe that was a moment where I got an opportunity to move full-time into equity markets. But I would say वो जो spark वाला moment है ना, that came in maybe in 2002-3. I was on the broking side, and after 9/11 and the big recession which the world faced, and after the dot-com boom and bust, stocks इतने सस्ते हो गए थे इंडिया में that मैं research करता था, इन्वेस्टरों के पास जाता था, institutional investor, but no one was willing to buy. तब मैंने डिसाइड किया कि आई वांट टू बी अ बायर रादर देन अ सेलर ऑफ स्टॉक्स, एंड दैट इज व्हेन आई डिसाइडेड टू मूव ऑन द बाय साइड, एंड लकीली आई गॉट अ ब्रेक विद रिलायंस म्यूचुअल फंड. सो मे बी दैट वाज द मोमेंट, बिकॉज उसके बाद आई एम ओनली बीन विद रिलायंस म्यूचुअल फंड एंड नाउ फॉर द लास्ट 7 years with Abakkus.
Right. So sir, your shot to fame was the stupendous growth journey of Reliance Growth Fund, which is now called as the Nippon Growth Mid Cap Fund. And आज के दिन भी सर मार्केट का हाईएस्ट नैव वाला फंड वही है जिसने 4,000 का नैव पार कर लिया। But who actually helped build that story? It was you. I was doing my research and I saw that कि आपने जब 2003 में इस फंड को टेकअप किया तब कुछ 25-28 रुपए का नैव हुआ करता था। And by the time you left, I think it had already crossed 1,000. So you actually made a 100x kind of a journey, and that is where it placed you in that league of elite fund managers. कि लोग वेट करते थे कि यार सुनील सर को सुनना है। तो I mean, how did this journey happen?
So see, nothing is frankly by design. I think what is in your hand is to obviously work passionately, follow what you believe is your strength and will work for you. Obviously have a great team, and then I think Indian markets and economy has been growing so fast कि उन्होंने अपने आप ही आपको ऐसा एक tailwind दे दिया। तो मैंने आपको कहा I joined Reliance in 2003. That time stocks were very cheap. Research was concentrated only on few large names, और बाकी market को people were just ignoring. I think that is what we focused on. Entrepreneur-driven companies did in-house research. We had a great team, and I think we put our money where our conviction was. And obviously, After 2003, the world became a much better place. India had a phenomenal 5-7 years of run, and we obviously did better. So it's been, I would say, a combination of a lot of things. और क्या है, 100 गुना बहुत ज़्यादा लगता है, but it's a 21-22% CAGR. So the power of compounding also plays. 21-22% is good, but it is achievable. So I think all of them combined, and we got what we got, and obviously investors, I think, the biggest beneficiary of this.
Yeah, I was doing my calculation, sir. और 2003 से 2017 की जर्नी थी, the CAGR was around 29%. But the beauty of that is that you were beating the category by almost 4%. So that is where 4% over like 14 years beat karna, hats off to you. I mean, that is why you are amongst the great in this industry. तो आज तक सर मैंने जितने भी लोगों से मैंने बात की एंड मोस्ट ऑफ पीपल से कि यार स्टॉक पिकिंग स्पेशली मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप नेम्स में अगर सीखना हो या किसी एक को देखना हो तो यू आर वन ऑफ वेरी फर्स्ट नेम्स दैट कम टू एवरीबॉडीज माइंड. So you have a knack for stock picking and you have a knack for identifying stocks early. तो सर मुझे ये जानना है कि how do you really look at companies and वो 2-3 instinctive filters जो कि बिना annual report खोले बिना balance sheet देखे आपको समझ आ जाता है यार इसको study करना है एटलीस्ट या इसको रिसर्च करना है डीप डाउन करना है and then you identify your gems.
तो I'll again say that है ना, हर इन्वेस्टर, हर पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर के स्ट्रेंथ्स होंगे, वीकनेस होंगे, and there will be some basic philosophy which every investor will have. मेरा हरदम यही मानना है कि you should believe in and you should work on what you actually feel is your strength. And at least from my perspective, because of my CA background and CFA background and my, I would say, interest in reading balance sheet, I'm a very number and fundamental focused investor. And balance sheets, obviously, I believe that presentations are made, balance sheets are derived.
Yeah.
So balance sheet investing is what at least works for me. बहुत मिस्टेक किए लाइफ में, बट मेरा एक ही मानना रहता है दैट मिस्टेक्स रिपीट नहीं होनी चाहिए.
Correct.
Can make a new mistake every time. I think mistakes करके सीख के, obviously we did more things right than wrong. That's why we were able to deliver what we delivered. I think basic structure ready हो गया, and which we follow in a Microsoft. So ROC, ROE is a very important criteria. Because अगर कोई promoter या management if they don't have discipline in terms of capital allocation, तो आगे पीछे उसमें compounding या लंबा return नहीं. तो 14-15% ROC, ROE is what we look for.
Correct.
दूसरा क्या है, we are investing in listed space. We are not investing in high risk, high return kind of investment on the private space. Therefore, for us, profitability and cash flow positiveness is very important.
Right.
हमारा ये मानना है कि अगर कोई कंपनी प्रॉफिट कर रही है, कैश फ्लो पॉजिटिव है, दैट मींस दे नीड कैपिटल टू ग्रो, नॉट टू बर्न.
Correct.
And they will survive forever. So profitability and growth in profitability, ideally profit doubling in 4 to 5 years is very, very great. Now big. And third is we have, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you call it, very value conscious. So what are you paying for and what are you going to derive on? So हमारा एक simple philosophy है, the best company is not necessarily the best stock if it is priced beyond perfection. And we have seen so many companies, great companies, but trading at very, very high multiples with growth rates quite low. उसमें आपका पैसा नहीं बनेगा और मनी लंबे समय. नियर टर्म में आप ग्रोथ स्टॉक है, ये है, वो है, क्वालिटी स्टॉक है, यू कैन जस्टिफाई वॉट एवर यू वांट टू जस्टिफाई, बट अल्टीमेटली द ग्रोथ will determine how much multiple that stock will get. Momentum, very difficult to resist, but that is something, again, we have just dissuaded us from. So in a very momentous kind of market, होता है कभी कभी फील करे स्टॉक बढ़ गया, but then एक solace भी होता है because we have seen more often than not when stocks move up far beyond their fundamentals or only on the basis of momentum, वो फिर से नीचे आ जाता है. तो मार खा के सीख लिया, कर रहे हैं भी काम. Hopefully this will work going forward.
अच्छा, आपने एक बहुत अच्छी बात बोली कि a good company might not be a good stock, a great company might not be a great stock because of the valuations. And सर आप जिस स्पेस में आप जाने जाते हो, which is mid and small cap, you hardly find great companies which are great stocks because of the overvaluation. Then वो filter होता क्या, जैसे कि I mean अभी भी देखते हैं कि ये इंडेक्स का पी आप देख लो इतना हाई है, लोग कहते हैं कि ये अपने लाइफ टाइम नहीं पर चल रहा है, एंड देन यू स्टिल फाइंड स्टॉक्स, यू स्टिल फाइंड पोर्टफोलियोज और कंस्ट्रक्ट दैट.
See, one good thing about India is that we are a very entrepreneur-driven economy. दूसरा है ना, India has presence across sectors. It's not one sector dependent. We have financial services. Financial services में भी इतने सारे segment. You have IT, you have pharma, you have chemical, you have auto, you have cement, you have metal, you have steel, you have every presence. And the spirit of entrepreneurship is very strong. So every year you will have 50, 70 good companies which get listed in your segments. So choice is immense. Obviously, last 10-15 साल में जो growth आई है Indian economy and markets में, and the interest which investors have now in equity markets has meant that not too many stocks are undiscovered. Right? पहले जैसे नहीं है that कोई देखता ही नहीं था बैलेंस शीट, कोई छोटी कंपनी को देखता ही नहीं था. अब तो हॉकाई लेके सब बैठे, so many lakhs and lakhs of investors. But see, ultimately what have you? आपको साल में 5-10 स्टॉक्स ऐसे खोजने हैं जिसका रिटर्न मार्केट से थोड़ा ज्यादा हो सकता है. करेक्ट. We don't need 100 stocks or 200 stocks. The other thing is, return at the portfolio level is a function of good stocks and minimizing mistakes. So I think that second part of minimizing mistakes, right, बहुत ही important है. Because portfolio return में अगर आपके पास बहुत अच्छे stocks हैं लेकिन ऐसे stocks भी जो आधे हो गए तो आपका portfolio return में impact नहीं है. And I think this combination of both of these is very, very necessary. हमारा एक simple philosophy है, लेके रोने से अच्छा नहीं लेके रो. कि लेके रोने में आपका कैपिटल जाता है, नहीं लेके रोने में पोटेंशियल प्रॉफिट जाता है. आई थिंक सम बेसिक फिलॉसफी वी फॉलो. अब तक तो ठीक चल रहा है, देखिए आप.
वेरी वेल सेड, वेरी वेल सेड सर. सर एक पर्सनल सवाल पूछना चाहूँगा. सर कॉन्टेक्स्ट सेट करता हूँ कि गालिब साहब ने कहा था कि हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पर दम निकले, बहुत निकले अरमान लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले. इन्वेस्टिंग की दुनिया की बात करते हैं सर, एंड स्टॉक्स, कई स्टॉक्स होते हैं जो आपके सपने पूरे कर देती हैं, एंड कुछ स्टॉक ऐसे हैं जो बहुत सिखा जाती है हमें. आपने भी अपने करियर में ऐसे कई सारे मोड़ देखे होंगे. सो कैन यू नरेट एनी वन स्टॉक example from your past, from your history, which actually either taught you a lesson or was your success story?
नहीं, बहुत एग्जांपल्स frankly, and every day is an example. Even now there is an example. लेकिन क्या होता है ना, देखो, आप जब भी कोई भी स्टॉक में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, यू हैव अ फिलॉसफी, यू हैव अ व्यू कि ये स्टॉक में ऐसा 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 हो सकता है. बट अगर कोई बोले ना मुझे पता था कि 50 गुना होने वाला ऑन द डे ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग, इट्स अ लाई. आपको रेगुलर बेसिस पे उस स्टॉक को ट्रैक करना होता है, रीअसेस करना होता है. आपका कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल कीप्स ऑन एनहांसिंग, एंड लंबे समय तक रखने के बाद ही वो मल्टीप्लाई होता है. सिमिलरली बहुत सारे आई वुड से कॉल्स ऐसे भी जाएंगे जो आपने जो सोचा था वो नहीं हुआ फॉर मल्टीपल रीजंस. सेक्टर में ही थोड़ा सा हेडविंड आ गया, या कंपनी जो हम सोच रहे थे वैसा नहीं कर पाई, या एक्सटर्नल इवेंट्स केम इन व्हिच कॉज्ड दैट एंटायर थिंग टू नॉट वर्क. और जैसे फार्मा कंपनी में कभी यूएसएफडी का इश्यू आता है, कोई लास्ट ईयर फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज में थोड़ा आरबीआई का कभी कुछ आ जाता है. तो बहुत सारे ऐसे भी पॉइंट. तो आई थिंक इन द पास्ट what has worked, obviously, in the past we used to have companies like Davies Laboratory, Eicher Motor, I remember Siemens, Kirloskar Brothers, multiple companies where the potential growth was very visible in the sector. The companies were leaders, but the market obviously had apprehensions. So best combination क्या है? Market, the sector has potential, company is well geared, but there is discipline. Okay, how will you make a multiplier? See, market price is equal to EPS into P. Right? EPS is earnings, P is perception. Where both grow, that is how your market cap can multiply. So I think that is something. There are sectors or companies which teach us a lesson also. Like in the past, between 2005-6 to 2008, capital was available in plenty globally. And there were companies who borrowed to grow, and we all got carried away that paisa to mil raha hai, company ka growth bhi aa jayega. But suddenly Lehman happened, and supply of money just disappeared. So all these companies which used to be like great were the worst sufferers. That included some at that point of time, power companies, mining companies, construction companies. So I think one lesson at that point of time was that you also have to be sure that at the portfolio level, how much risk are you taking to make difference? So Jessica, last 2025, we have learned so many lessons that you're trying to now build that in so that you don't repeat the mistakes.
Right. So I'll pick it right from where you left, sir, कि portfolio level पे risk management भी उतना ही ज़रूरी होता है. And one common thing that we see, especially with new investors, जो लोग direct stocks में investing करते हैं, वो ये होता है कि they fall in love with the stocks, right? And they feel that they can never go wrong, and which is where you end up creating very highly concentrated portfolios. So at a fund manager level, sir, I know you're a pro at it. I would want you to give an advice कि how do you balance कि एक तरफ आपको stock conviction भी उतना ही जरूरी है, otherwise आप sizing नहीं करोगे तो return कहाँ से बनाओगे, but at the same time portfolio concentration avoid करना भी जरूरी है so that you have a well-rounded portfolio.
So see, most of our funds, when we invest, we cap it at maybe 5%.
Okay.
And we let it ride to maybe 8-9%, because that means the stocks which are doing well, you allow it to ride. Otherwise, तो आप अगर बार-बार काटते रहोगे तो your winners are.
Correct.
And that again comes out of the belief that most of our funds have many investors. So you want to give them returns. At the same time, we don't want to create too much volatility. And I think it's worked. So in larger companies, we do maybe at the time of investing, we do around 5%. In smaller companies, it's to 3%. And ideally, we like them to grow to maybe 8-9%. In some cases, they do. And at 8-9%, we start to, because even if we are very, very convinced, we don't want one or two stocks to determine the fate of our returns and the investor return, because something can go wrong at any point. Okay. At the same time, we do realize that there is a category of investors who are very sophisticated, quite large, can take higher risk. So we have portfolios where we take very concentrated bets. When individual stock can even be 15%. But that is very select for very, very large investors. But I think by and large, most of our funds, we would have a diversification, but again, not too long a tail. क्योंकि अगर आप 100 स्टॉक है और नीचे वाले स्टॉक 0.1-0.2% है, तो even if you go right, you're not going to make a difference to the portfolio. And then you have to track so many companies so closely because they are a part of the portfolio.
Correct. Rightly said, sir. So again, taking from where you left, sir, you have worn both the hats. Abakkus is known in the market for its PMS, AIF products and strategies, and now you are following into the mutual fund while you have built your pedigree via mutual fund. So both are two different worlds. जब मार्केट में तेजी आती है, every investor feels like ये म्यूचुअल फंड तो बेसिकली आपका आटा दाल चावल चीनी है, तो ये तो हर आदमी के लिए है. Give me something exclusive, and that is where PMS AIF comes in. But then you look at the year like a 2025, and everyone's eating humble pie. So, what is your take on the discussion of PMS versus mutual funds?
See, ultimately, every, I would say, segment, whether it is PMS, AIF, mutual fund, going forward, some of the strategies are all trying to generate returns after by investing in equities.
Yeah.
Even for us, the philosophy is going to remain the same in terms of stock picking, in terms of risk measurement, whether it is AIF, PMS, or mutual fund. But both the segments cater to different kind of investors. Obviously, PMS and AIF caters to larger investors, as I said, who will have a little bit more ability to withstand volatility. And therefore, at least for us, we run a little bit more concentrated portfolios there. We take very high active weights, almost 85% is active weights, so non-index hugging completely. Mutual funds, on the other hand, is also for all kinds of investors. So obviously, we'll have some large investors, but most of them would be investors with 10, 20,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh each. They want to generate wealth over a period of time. At the same time, their ability to take extraordinary risk is limited, and we should not take. So we will have maybe a more diverse portfolio. Maybe active it will be more like 50-60% rather than 85%. I think it is unfair to compare both because both are different segments. It is like, saying that there are two products from the same FMCG company. But, you have to choose what is best for you. 99.8% of mutual fund investors will not become PMS and AIF investors because the average investment in a mutual fund by an investor is 3-4 equities.
Yep.
And here you start with 50 like this one. So I think it is a very small segment of investors who would have that question, PMS, AIF, mutual fund. Otherwise, the segmentation is completely different. Mutual fund is a super product. I always, even if someone asks me, if you're starting investing in equity, even if you have the money, you should start with the mutual fund because it's a very simple product, NAV based, entry exit is very simple, understanding your returns is very, very simple, paperwork is much less. But obviously, as you grow, as your maturity level increases, as your risk taking appetite increases, then you can also look at the PMS and AIF. Right. So total investors in PMS and AIF in India is 1.5 lakh. And in mutual fund, you have 10 crore holdings. Correct. So, not even like just over 1%, not even 1% actually. Yeah. Investors are 0.1, 0.2%. That's what I said. 99.8% of the investors will only be in mutual funds.
Correct. This is a time when we are in loggerheads in the sense that एक तरफ हम देखते हैं कि 15 महीने से मार्केट एक ही जगह खड़ा है, returns are not made, and all the new age investors are feeling like यार म्यूचुअल फंड कुछ बन नहीं रहा है. On the other side, you are seeing that gold and silver is having a stupendous rally, मतलब never seen before kind of a rally, and people are feeling like यार वही सही था, वही लगाना चाहिए था. FIIs दिन रात माल बेचे जा रहे हैं, अभी तक रुक नहीं रहा है. यूएस इंडिया का ट्रेड डील पिछले 1 साल से साइन होने को था, बस आज ही हो रहा था, आज ही कोई मिनिस्टर आने वाला है, आज ही होने वाला है, बट अभी तक तो नहीं हुआ है. इतने मिक्स्ड सिग्नल्स है सर. What would be your take on the current affairs of the market right now?
I think you're absolutely right. Last 1 year has been challenging. But I think that is the nature of the markets. Even in the past, we have seen, 3-4 साल बहुत अच्छा चलता है. 1 साल 2 साल थोड़ा ब्रेक भी लगता है. इनफैक्ट नेगेटिव भी आती है. This time we are, better off that after 4 years of phenomenal wealth creation, we are flat. As far as gold and silver is concerned, yes, last 1 year has been great. But अगर इतना ही conviction था, तो why were we not talking about it last year or the year before that? So obviously there is always recency bias. जो कल हुआ है, हमको लगता है वो कल भी होगा. And I think people do get carried away. 2024 में equity में हुआ. People started becoming very positive towards mid of 24 because last 4 year returns were great. Elections आ रहा था, feel good था. So maybe 5.5 साल का return 4 साल में बना. And that's why you're seeing 1.5 years of consolidation. Now, if you look at the structure of the equity market, India was trading at a 45% premium to the emerging markets on PE basis last year. That has come down to 15% because of 25% other markets doing better. Foreigners' weightage in India was 20% in emerging market. That has come down to a 10-year low of 14%. Profit growth, which had fallen to 3% in September 24, is now back to 10%. RBI has been pumping in liquidity. There have been 125 basis points of rate cut. Government is supporting the growth with income tax cut, GST cut. I think what is left is the trade deal. And you're right. Last 11 months, we thought India and US were friends and we would sign up a very favorable trade deal very fast, but who are in? But at least last 1 month, the indications are more friendly than no. And there are delegations which keep on coming and delegations from India which keep on going to the US. So I think from our side, हमें लगता है it's a question of कब, not होगा भी. Correct. So we'll have to wait it out. But that's the nature of equity markets. Gold and silver, obviously, good thing is Indians have so much gold that we are beneficiary. We have almost $4 trillion worth of gold. So gold price is moving up. I don't think is negative. It is good for Indian investors. And I think from an investor's perspective, to create long-term sustainable wealth, you have to be in equity because it's a growing asset class.
Yeah.
Gold is not a growing asset class. अगर आपने आज 100 ग्राम गोल्ड खरीदा है, 10 साल 20 साल बाद आप तिजोरी से निकालोगे तो 100 ग्राम भी निकले.
करेक्ट.
इक्विटी में अगर आपने कोई कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट किया जिसका टर्नओवर 100 करोड़ है, 10 साल में 200, 300, 400, 500 करोड़. It's a growing asset. So growing assets is what will create wealth.
Like, fair enough, sir. So, can I summarize and say that you are more confident entering in the Indian equity markets in January 26 versus where you were in January 25?
So I would say towards end of 24, we were not negative, but we were very clear that it is not the time to become very aggressive. From August onwards, we have started recommending that those who want to put money to work, you can start doing it. Obviously, there are challenges. We don't know when the markets will behave the way it is. But as I said, I think despite all the challenges, we are flat on Nifty. Thoda mid and small cap नीचे है. But that's the nature of mid and small cap. The volatility is more there, and that's why you get higher returns.
सर, अब थोड़ा सा आपके पर्सनल लाइफ पर आते हैं. एंड you were doing so great in Reliance Mutual Fund, and nobody could have thought that you would ever leave that fund house in that particular fund. But then you left all of it and started Abakkus all on your own. Sir, वो कौन सी ऐसी inner conviction थी which made you do this transition from a job to a business?
See, difficult होता है, बहुत difficult होता है. And there are reasons, when you are in a very senior position in a large organization, doing very well, आपको सब comfort मिल जाते हैं ऑफिस की तरफ से, body cabin, all the ecosystem in place, But I was thinking and talking to myself that all my life I have backed entrepreneurs by investing in entrepreneur-driven companies.
Yep.
Or India offers such a huge opportunity on the asset and wealth. People were getting richer. More people were getting richer. This whole concept of financial savings was picking up. And there was an opportunity. The way in the US, आपके पास mutual funds भी होते हैं, but जो थोड़े से mature investors होते हैं, they also look at professional fund managers who are their own. So I think with that in mind, decided to set up Abakkus in 2018 after almost 15-16 years at Reliance. Starting में tough होता है, because आप जब job कर रहे होते हैं ना, तो आपको एक तारीख को check बैंक में आ जाता है, and when you become an entrepreneur, आपको एक तारीख को check देना पड़ता है. तो पहला 5-6 महीना थोड़ा सा है ना, it's a different mindset. But I would thank all my well-wishers that they supported me from day one. And now you are talking about compounding of returns in Reliance Growth Fund and others. I always say that this is also compounding of relationships.
Yep.
And and Madhu are still in touch. He always says that the best compounding in life is compounding of relationship, and that I actually felt when I set up Abakkus. The support, the love which we got was phenomenal, and I think I'm really overwhelmed by the love I'm getting now when I'm setting up the mutual fund. क्योंकि जब भी हमने PMS और AIF किया ना, तो बहुत limited हमारे partners, but most of the partners were catering to smaller investors. पर अब जब भी म्यूचुअल फंड कर रहे हैं ना, हजारों की संख्या में हमारे partners, और वो उनको सब पुरानी यादें आ जाती है यार, और गले लगते हैं, they give so much love. I think it is a great experience. It also makes me tense कि इतने लोग आप पे विश्वास कर रहे हैं, अभी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और बढ़ गई. तो instead of taking easy in life, you are in fact taking more and more responsibility. But that's life. You have to go on.
सर, आपसे जितना बात कर रहा हूँ ना, what I am personally admiring more is your simplicity. कितनी प्यारी बात आपने कही कि more than compounding of wealth, आप compounding of relationships भी कर रहे हो. सर, किसी शायर ने कहा था कि कोई तो बात होगी तुम्हारी सादगी में भी कि लोग तुम्हें देखकर ही मुस्कुराने लगते हैं. And which is where when Weber sir was there in our office and he was explaining me the logo of Abakkus, and he said that you believe in simplicity, but वही markets में आते हैं and people love complicated things. So how do you keep your head still and believe in simplicity?
See, our tagline is believe in the basics.
Yeah.
Even the name Abacus is derived from Abacus, ABACUS, which is the first counting instrument invented by mankind. तो हम जब केजी में जाते थे तो स्लेट में बीड्स होते थे, इससे काउंटिंग सिखाया जाता था. That is called Abacus. We have modified it to add little personal touch. So KKUS is the name of my family members. Kanchan, Khushi, Ujjwal, Sunil, and this is the tagline, believe in the basics. I'd gone to Canada a few years back. I went to a very large wealth managers. Unka tagline था boring makes wealth. So a lot of complicated things, exotic things are very interesting. And we get attracted to them, but they don't create wealth. Boring things you do systematically, regularly, they will keep on adding and create. And that is why the squirrel, they keep on accumulating small bits every day.
Yeah.
They will never tire. आप देखो squirrel को लगा हुआ ही रहता है. So I think that is what we believe will take. आप थोड़ा return देंगे सब. At the end of that 30 years, like growth fund is 4,000 NAV.
Correct.
It's a combination of small things. Just doing basics consistently right.
Right. तो सर अब आते हैं आपके लेटेस्ट ऑफरिंग पर. जब अबैकस म्यूचुअल फंड पहला स्कीम लॉन्च करने जा रहा है म्यूचुअल फंड साइड पर, व्हिच इज योर फ्लेक्सी कैप फंड, एंड आई वाज गोइंग थ्रू योर प्रेजेंटेशन सर, और वहां पे आप लोगों ने और डिटेल में बात की है मीट्स फ्रेमवर्क के लिए. नाउ टू एन ऑर्डिनरी पर्सन इट साउंड्स लाइक कि कुछ 5 चीजें आप करने वाली, इट्स लाइक एन इन्वेस्टमेंट का पंचामृत आप लाने वाले, राइट? बट सर आई वुड वांट यू टू काइंड ऑफ टॉक अबाउट द मीट्स फ्रेमवर्क एंड how is your flexi cap going to be different from the already existing 40 plus flexi caps that are there in the market?
So see, when we set up Abakkus, जैसे मैंने कहा, we got together. I think investment team is the heart and soul. From day one, we focused on creating a good investment team. Started with 8 people. And now so we have 23, 24. But we got together. तो सब अपनी mistakes है ना discuss करते हैं. And let us create an investment philosophy, learning from that mistakes, and then a framework. See, frameworks are important for 2 reasons. One is India has so many listed funds. Though we have such a large team, it is impossible to track everything. So first you have to shortlist your hires based on some parameters. So this framework will help us to shortlist to maybe 400. और दूसरा, जैसे मैंने आपको पहले भी कहा, portfolio returns are a combination of good stock picking and making least mistakes.
Correct.
So if you have a framework, आपको आपका मिस्टेक्स है ना कम हो जाएगी. 0 तो कभी नहीं होंगे, कम. बहुत ही सिंपल फ्रेमवर्क. M इज मैनेजमेंट. हर कोई बोलता है गुड मैनेजमेंट, बट व्हाट इज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ गुड मैनेजमेंट? हमारे यहाँ एकदम क्लैरिटी. 14% ROC या ROE 100% होना चाहिए. Because if the management does not have discipline of capital allocation, you will not sustainably look at that. He is earning, I mentioned you earlier, we invest in profit making. It's right. Equity investing is becoming partner in the business. We would like to become investor in a company where profits can double, ideally in 4 years, maximum of 5 years. Other profits double hoga, ideally the value of the business will also grow. Correct. Second is event trends and disruption. I mentioned you earlier, market price is equal to EPS into P. For the same EPS, if the P falls, you make a lot of loss. Yes. Which is perception. How do perceptions change? Perceptions change because the world is very dynamic. The way we work, the way we study, the way we entertain, shop, everything has changed. And a dynamism बहुत बढ़ते जाने वाला है. पहले तो 20-30 साल तक you could say for sure that this is going to be working like this. Now नहीं होगा. So you see newspapers. P multiples have collapsed because advertisements have moved to the digital. Yeah. TV channels, P multiples have collapsed because we have moved to the Netflix and the Prime and Hotstar of the world. Or even passenger vehicles. India में नहीं हुआ, but globally, BMW, Mercedes trade at 6-7 multiples. Tesla trades at 200 multiples because the perception is people will move to EV, so the growth there will be faster. P is the timing. I mentioned you earlier, the best company is not necessarily the best stock. We believe in the theory of mean valuation. In the near term, momentum might lead to disproportionate movement in stocks, but ultimately, theory of mean reversion works. कभी कभी मीन रिवर्जन 2 महीने वर्क करता है, कभी 2 साल भी लगता है. एंड वी हैव सीन सो मेनी कंपनीज रिसेंटली, ऑल द ईएमएस कंपनीज हैव गॉट डी रेट. कुछ खराब नहीं है उसमें, बट बहुत मोमेंटम था. थियरी ऑफ मीन रिवर्जन से वी आर कमिंग बैक टू नॉर्मल. एंड लास्ट इज द एस स्ट्रक्चर. We are a growth country. There will be some sectors, some companies which will grow faster. वो आपको सस्ते कीमत में नहीं मिलेगा. So despite our value conscious approach, there will be some sectors and companies where we'll have to give a slightly higher return. But the growth should justify that least. तो बहुत ही सिंपल फिलॉसफी है. अब तक काम कर रही है, देखो आगे.
एक्सेस फ्रॉम पोर्टफोलियो कंस्ट्रक्टर की क्या आपका फ्लेक्सी कैप भी मार्केट के बाकी फ्लेक्सी कैप जैसा होगा, जहाँ 70-80% पैसा लार्ज कैप में होता है और बाकी पैसा मिडिल स्मॉल कैप में होता है? क्या आप भी करने वाले?
To be honest, I think the mutual fund industry and the investors are blessed. We have some really, really good portfolio managers and really good fund houses. And I think across the board, investors have benefited because of great performance and consistent performance from most of the fund houses. So I don't want to say that we are going to be better or not. The only thing is some of the flexi cap funds, because maybe of their size or style, now have 80-90% large caps, which has worked last 1 year because large caps have done better. But our view is that a flexi cap should stick to its mandate of having flexibility of investing across market caps. And that is what our intention is. We are basically going to have 40 to 60% in large cap and the balance in broader markets. Not have 100 and 150 stocks, maybe close to 50 stocks, 45 to 50 stocks, and have that 10-15% swing where we can move between market caps. देखो कोई भी बोलेगा मैं 0% large cap कर दूंगा और 100% small cap कर दूंगा, possible नहीं है. But even if you are able to do that 10-15% swing, the market is so dynamic, we can generate some returns. And obviously in the mutual fund structure, the tax advantage allows us to have a slightly higher churn than normal. So I will not say we will be better than other flexi cap, but we will say that we will have a strategy which will be slightly different than some of the larger flexi caps which are available.
And I am sure sir, आपके जितने आइडियाज सिंपल हैं और जितने सालों से आपने इन आइडियाज को इम्प्लीमेंट किया है, you have the track record which makes me believe, which makes everyone believe that yes, you and your fund house should do a great job. So we look forward to the launch of this flexi cap NFO. One last question sir before I leave you, and that is on the behavioral side, which is कि सर मार्केट्स में तेजी भी आती है, गिरावट भी आती है, मार्केट कई साल तक साइडवेज भी रहता है. But one common investor behavior which you have seen across cycles, when you see कि यार ये क्या कर रहा है, क्यों कर रहा है, क्यों ऐसी गलती कर रहा है, so anything that you would want to challenge and say कि यार ये गलती आप मत करिए, any message?
I would be very honest. I think investors in India have become significantly more mature and smart than they were earlier. I think the whole concept of making very, very quick gains or maybe hoga, because greed is something which God has given to us with a lot of other virtues. But by and large, investors have realized that equity investing on a regular basis will give you decent valuation. So I think that has been the reason why, despite no return in the last 1 year, investors continue to honor their SIPs, and which is the right strategy. At the same time, बहुत मजा आती है to do direct stock picking, to engage in speculative activity. वो भी DNA है. I think everyone likes to gamble.
Before setting है.
वो है human being, human nature. I think the only thing I would say is that borrowed knowledge and information will not work most of the time. तो आप कोई टिप सुन के इन्वेस्ट कर देते हो, कोई 5 रुपए की कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट कर देते हो जिसमें कोई फंडामेंटल नहीं है, दैट लीड्स टू मिस एलोकेशन ऑफ रिटर्न. उसमें क्या होता है, आपका अच्छा इन्वेस्टमेंट आपको बेचना पड़ता है और आपके डर्ट्स आपके पोर्टफोलियो में रह जाते हैं. तो फॉर एवरी इन्वेस्टर, वन, यू हैव टू बी पॉजिटिव ऑन द इकोनॉमी. टू, you have to have the view that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Third, you have to have a view that you are investing to make reasonable returns consistently over a period of time. And fourth is curb your instinct to try and double your money every 15 days. वो होने नहीं होता. But I would just say that we are fortunate. We are in India at this point of time, but the economy is going up the hill despite all the concerns which you said at the start of the show. We're still growing at 6.5-7%. I think as a country, every Indian is having the highest ever net worth.
Yeah.
Because gold भी है, उसका वहाँ देखो $4 trillion का गोल्ड हो गया इंडियंस के पास. Liquidity is also okay, flat है, पैसा गया नहीं. And unless you are a direct investor in some of the debts. And I think generally it is pretty much better than most of the other countries. I think make use of it. You are doing a good job. Be positive and keep investing.
Right. So very well said, sir. And while I would love to keep chatting with you, but I know you are traveling the entire country right now, and thank you so much for taking out
It was a pleasure.
time from your busy schedule. We really hope that this new meaning of yours actually takes off in just the way Reliance Growth Fund took off and how your PMS AIF have performed over the last 7-8 years. And we really hope to participate in a big way in the Abakkus mutual fund journey as well. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.